Okay, let's dive into a really powerful framework for navigating our crazy, chaotic modern lives. We all feel it, right? That constant rush, the never-ending to-do lists. But what if you could find a deep sense of peace and clarity right in the middle of all that noise? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore.
And this quote, man, it just sets the stage perfectly. So often, our days aren't really our own. They feel like this frantic dance, a performance that's being directed by this constant stream of wants and needs, pulling us from one thing to the next, from the second we wake up till the moment we finally crash.
And this slide just lays out the contrast so clearly. On one side, you've got the rich outer life, and we know what that looks like. Your calendar is slammed, you're constantly doing, and you have that feeling of just treading water, trying to keep your head up. But then, look at the other side, the rich inner life. It doesn't start with another task, but with an appointment with the self. It's a shift from doing to just being. And that leads not to burnout, but to real, genuine clarity.
So why do we feel this constant pressure, this dissatisfaction? Well, it turns out it all starts with a fundamental but super common confusion, a big mix-up. You know, the spiritual tradition of Vedanta actually has a specific name for this, adhyasa. This is the great mix-up. It's this fundamental error in how we see things, and it's the root cause of so much of our inner turmoil. It's basically when we mistakenly identify with all the things that are not our true, unchanging self.
This classic example just illustrates the problem perfectly. Imagine this. You walk into a dark room and you see a snake coiled on the floor. Your heart pounds, right? You're terrified. But then you flick on the light and you see it was just a rope the whole time. In the exact same way, we're constantly mistaking the temporary, changing things in our lives, our bodies, our thoughts, our jobs, for our permanent, unchanging self.
And here's the real kicker. This mix-up works in two directions. First, we mistake our true, timeless self for our temporary body, which creates this deep, nagging fear of loss. But at the very same time, we mistake temporary things, like our bodies or our possessions, as being permanent, and so we chase after them like crazy. It creates this endless cycle of desire and disappointment.
Okay, so if that's the problem, how do we untangle this mess? Well, thankfully, there's a really clear, practical path we can follow to find our way back to clarity.
The path to unraveling this whole mix-up is a pretty straightforward three-stage process. It starts with Shravanam, which is all about listening repeatedly to the wisdom. Then you move to Mananam. This is where you reflect on it, you question it, you wrestle with it until all your doubts are gone. And finally, Nididhyasana. This is deep contemplation, where that understanding stops being an idea and becomes your actual lived experience.
And this is so relevant for us today. I mean, unlike students in ancient times, our minds are just filled with so much more clutter, more anxiety, more distractions, more opinions. And that's exactly why just listening to the knowledge isn't going to cut it for most of us. We really need all three of these steps to clear out all that internal noise and finally close that huge gap between knowing something and actually being it.
Now, about that final step, contemplation, it's not something you can just jump into. It actually requires us to prepare our minds first. Think of it like trying to find a quiet space in a really cluttered room. You've got to do some cleaning first. And this metaphor, wow, it just gets right to the point, doesn't it? Our inner room, our mind, is often filled with this thicket of strong prejudices and preferences. It's like a jungle of unchecked desires and old baggage. So, before we can find that quiet space for real clarity, we have to roll up our sleeves and do some serious cleaning.
So how in the world do you clean this inner room? Well, one really key practice is to go to the source of so many of our deepest beliefs and wounds, our parents. The exercise is to visualize them not as the big authority figures you knew, but as they were once, just young, vulnerable kids. And when you see them that way, you can grant them the freedom to have been imperfect. It's a simple shift in perspective, but it can completely detach that heavy emotional charge from old memories. And that creates the space you need for real inner peace. You know, this entire journey of self-inquiry, of cleaning out that inner room and finding what's really there, can be understood through one of the most powerful and beautiful allegories in all of Eastern philosophy.
Here, the whole process is just laid out for us. That vast deep ocean, that's your own unconscious mind. The churning, that's the work, the process of self-inquiry. And who's doing the churning? Well, it's both the devas and the asuras, your good side and your not-so-good side, your virtues and your baggage. They're both part of this. The poison that comes up first, That's all the unresolved stuff, the fears, the hurts. And the nectar, that's the prize. That's the profound freedom of self-knowledge. And this is maybe the most critical truth to come out of this whole story. This inner work is not about avoiding the hard stuff. You cannot get to the nectar of freedom by trying to go around the poison. You have to face it. It's only by confronting and dealing with that poison that the nectar can finally emerge.
And in the end, this whole journey, untangling the mix-up, cleaning the inner room, churning the ocean, it's not about transforming yourself into some new and improved person. It's really a journey of discovery. It's about stripping away all the layers of confusion to realize the peace, the clarity, and the wholeness that has actually been your true nature all along.
So, I'll just leave you with this question. If you were to bravely begin this process of inner churning, of looking within with both compassion and courage, what profound truth, what incredible freedom, what life-changing nectar is waiting for you in your inner ocean?